take over who's in better shape. Hey, why don't you talk to Belinda about this? Wally said desperately. Maya sighed, and Wally, full of relief, got up and left. I lay back down next to Maya. Whatever horrible danger had been lurking seemed to have gone away. What do you think the danger was? Notice Ellie thought the danger was near when they were having this conversation. So do you think maybe because Wally was sweating and maybe he was nervous about having the conversation, maybe she thought that was the danger? It sounds like Maya is very frustrated and feeling very down about not being able to run and keep up. Let's see what happens. Let's see. Okay. The next day, Maya and I didn't work. She put on some soft new shoes, grabbed my leash, and took me to a long road that ran along the sand next to that big pond, the ocean, where I'd found the little girl named Charlotte. Dogs were everywhere, but even though Maya didn't give me any commands, I sensed that this was a new kind of work. So I ignored their barking and dashing back and forth. Maya and I ran together down the road, farther than we had ever run before. I sensed a new kind of determination in her. Remember, when you're determined, you're not going to fail. You are going to do everything you can to make it happen and be successful. So she had a new kind of determination in her. She kept going as the sun rose steadily in the sky, and I kept pace beside her. It was the longest run we've ever taken together. It went on and on until I felt Maya's body fill up with pain and exhaustion. Then, at last, she turned back. The return trip was just as determined. We stopped a few times, and Maya let me drink out of faucets set into the concrete next to very smelly buildings. Ooh, I wonder what that could be. Do you think maybe it's a public bathroom? Then Maya would start to run again. Each time she went a little slower, but she kept going. At last, the parking lot came into view ahead of us, and Maya slowed to a walk. "Oh my," she whispered. By the time we got to the truck, she was limping. We were both panting pretty hard. Maya sat down. I'm just checking the time. It's over 10 minutes already. Maya sat down on the back of the truck and drank half a bottle of water, then bent down to hang her head between her legs. Then she threw up the water she'd just drunk. I came and put my head on Maya's knees, sad that she was hurting so much. She was too tired to even lift a hand to stroke my head. "You okay?" a young woman passing by asked. She was sweating from her run, but breathing easily. Maya nodded without even looking up. The next day we did fine again. Maya groaned as she eased herself out of the car and walked to the picnic table. I sat at her feet, waiting eagerly for the command. Maya sighed. "Fine, Ellie," she said. Her voice was low and sad. I leaped forward, sniffing the ground eagerly. I couldn't smell Wally anywhere, but I caught Belinda's trail easily. She walked over this ground not long ago. It would not be hard to find her. I heard Maya groan, and I hesitated and looked back. Maya was walking as if every step hurt, and she was so slow. I ran forward, following Belinda's trail under some trees. She'd forced her way between two bushes, leaving her scent all over the leaves. I followed, then I stopped. I shoved my body back between the bushes and ran to Maya. She looked down at me in surprise. "Ellie, having trouble, girl? Find?" No, I wasn't the one having trouble. Maya was limping after me, determined. But she couldn't go fast at all, and I could tell from how she was walking how much her muscles hurt. I didn't want to get too far ahead. She might not be able to catch up with me, and then how could I show Belinda to her? I trotted along the trail. It was hard to slow down. The trail was clear, and I wanted to charge ahead to find Belinda as quickly as possible. But I kept my pace slow so that Maya could keep up. I heard her push through the bushes behind me, and I dashed to her side, glanced up at her, and turned back to the trail on the ground. Belinda had waded through a little stream and walked along it, but I found her easily on the other side and kept going. Maya plodded grimly through the water behind me. So if you're grim, it's negative, and she's struggling. She's in pain, and she plodded grimly, like she knew she had to do it, but she was not happy about it. I dashed up the little hill and paused on the top to be sure Maya was following. When I was sure that she was, I ran ahead through a stand of tall grasses, Belinda's scent growing stronger with every step I took. I burst out of the grass, and there Belinda was, stretched out under a tree. Her head was leaning back against the trunk. Her eyes were closed. I ran back to Maya. She was making her way slowly up the hill. "Oh, Ellie, good," she panted when she saw me. "Show me." I walked up the hill, keeping just a few feet ahead of Maya, glancing back over my shoulder often to be sure she was still with me. We pushed our way through the tall grass and found Belinda asleep under the tree. Maya took a few deep breaths. "Good dog, you are such a good dog, Ellie," she whispered to me, and she sniffed hard. Then she cleared her throat. Belinda woke up with a start. She glanced at her wrist, and I felt a little shock of surprise come off her. "Just had an off day," Maya said. Belinda nodded and smiled and got to her feet. That night, Maya went... So let's back up. Why do you think she said she had an off day? And right after Belinda looked at her watch. So why do you think that? Remember, we got some clues here. Belinda had fallen asleep, then she glanced at her watch, and then Maya said she had an off day. So I'm thinking it took her a very long time to find Belinda. Probably too long. That night, Maya went to take a bath while I stayed in the living room. Tinkerbell was, as usual, hiding from the world. Stella was in the bedroom, checking out my bed. I could tell from the smell that she'd even tried sleeping there while Maya and I were at work. "Ellie," Maya called. "Ellie, come." Only her head was sticking up out of the water in the bathtub. I sniffed curiously at the warm bubbles and lapped up a little of the water, but it was terrible. I shook my head to chase the taste away. Emmett sat on the bath mat, licking himself, waiting for something to happen that he could ignore. Maya reached out a wet hand and stroked my head. "I'm sorry, Ellie." Her voice was low and sad. "I'm just not good enough. I just can't keep up with you in the field. You're such a good dog. You need someone who can handle you." I wagged when I heard that I was a good dog. Usually, people were happy when I was good, but Maya's sadness did not change. She looked lonely in the water all by herself. Would she be happier if I got into the tub with her? I put my paws up on the edge. Maya was already lying on the bottom, so she couldn't sink, which made it look like a lot more fun than jumping into the fountain after Jacob, or even splashing in the ocean. Emmett stopped licking himself and looked at me without any of the proper respect. I'm not sure if he ever understood I could eat him in 2 bites, if I wanted to. Just because I didn't want to was no reason for him to get snooty about it. Love it. We still see her kind of attitude. So 5th graders, this would be maybe an example you could use in your paragraph about the main character, about Ellie. Then he waltzed out of the room with his tail in the air, as if he were daring me to chase him down and do something about the fact that this house had too many cats. "Tomorrow I have a surprise for you, Ellie," Maya said. Well, okay. I'd gone this far. I heaved my back legs up and splashed into the tub right on top of Maya, sinking down through the clouds of bubbles. Warm water sloshed over the edge and onto the bathroom floor. "Ellie!" Maya burst into laughter, her delight blowing out the sadness like a candle. Okay, well that was chapter 11. That was fairly long. It was almost 20 minutes. So I hope you enjoyed it, and hopefully see you tomorrow at school.